Everyone, what's going on? If you're new to this channel, what I talk about is patterns and signs and symbolism and how it coincides with what is called gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases. And it stems back to things such as ancient knowledge, such as, astrology and Hermeticism and Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism that has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number. And what I talk about a lot on this channel is how if you pay enough attention to the things that are going on in your own life, you can see how there is a pattern that exists within the mainstream media as well. And you can figure out things and learn more about this world that we truly live in. And whether God is some guy sitting in the clouds or if God is just some numerical pattern or however you want to believe it, it truly exists all around us. We live in this numerical code. And a lot of times I talk about how there are people in this world who understand this knowledge, and they truly are the people who control our mainstream media and they control our sports leagues and so on. But it doesn't take away from the fact that these things are existing all around us. It's just that there are people who understand this system and, they know how to manipulate it and rule over most of the world with this system. Anyway, in my own life and also within the media lately, I've been noticing this theme that has to do with cats. And, for example, we had that Madden shooting where the guy's name was David Katz, supposedly, and it was super synced up to the War of 1812, which is where the national anthem was written, the Star Spangled Banner, during the Battle of Baltimore. And they said that guy's name was David Katz. He was from Baltimore. And it was in Jacksonville, named after Andrew Jackson, who was famous for winning the Battle of New Orleans. And that's the war the battle that ended the War of 1812, and much, much more. But David Katz. And then we got the death of Mac Miller, which his ex-girlfriend was Ariana Grande, and her name actually supposedly comes from Felix the cat, and she was also Cat Valentine on whatever Disney show she was on. And I've just been kind of following it, and I've just been noticing random weird stories that have been mainstream articles, such as Beyonce's former drummer that supposedly said that Beyonce does witchcraft against her and she put a spell on her cat. I was like, that's just so weird, putting a spell on her cat. And then the other day we got the story of Carl Anthony Towns signing a $190 million contract with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But in the mainstream media, they wrote his name like this, K-A-T, Cat, right? And this was right around the same time Tiger Woods won for the first time in how many years? Right, 5 years. Tiger is a cat, right? And think about Jacksonville too. The Jacksonville shooting, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're a cat. And then recently we just had the Lions upset the Patriots, which nobody thought would happen really. The Lions are a cat. In the same week, we had the Bengals lose to the Panthers, right? These two cat teams play each other. And also the Jaguars lost, and they lost to Tennessee, but so I don't know how that completely fits in, but just interesting. The Bengals played another cat team, and then the Lions upset the Patriots, a cat team. And the word cat equals 21 and also 6 in Gematria, and the Bengals, Panthers, and the Jaguars are all 2-1. And the Bengals even had one with 20, or they had 21 points, and the Jaguars had 6 in these games. So, just pointed out to you here. 6, or where? 6 here, 21. So just interesting, it even has a connection to cats. And anyway, I started thinking about some previous things that I had documented in my own life on my blog about cats. And it's interesting because recently my cats have been driving me crazy. We have 3 cats. And my one cat actually got pregnant again and is outside, but it comes back in to eat and whatever, and then it goes, I don't know where its kittens are, because somebody left the door open and the cat got out, and then the cat had the kittens outside. So it's just interesting. There's another cat thing going on in my life. The cats have been driving me crazy. The first cat we had just had kittens again, and it reminded me that in 2016, just before my uncle Barney died, my mom's cat, her orange cat named Quasi, went missing. And I was trying to find him before Christmas and whatever, it was in December, and couldn't find him. And my Aunt Betty had posted on Facebook this picture of an orange cat that looked a lot like him. And we went over there, we found out that it wasn't my mom's cat. And it was disappointing that it wasn't my mom's cat. But it was my Aunt Betty, and this all happened 1 month and 14 days before my uncle died, or before my mom's birthday. And then my uncle died on January 14th, a lot like 114 both ways. And Betty, who posted that on Facebook, was my uncle's wife or whatever, right? So missing cat. Missing cat in gematria just so happens to equal 114. So this was 1 month, 14 days before my mom's birthday. Missing cat equals 114. Barney died on January 14th. And this was all after the Cubs had just won on that big number, 114. They were in their 114th season being called the Cubs, and they got their 114th win. And I talked about how I thought the Cubs were going to win the World Series or be in the World Series against the Indians because of the tie that they had against Pittsburgh. The word tie equals 114. And the last time there was a tie in the major leagues was in 2005 when the Astros tied the Reds 114 days before they went to the World Series and lost to the Chicago White Sox. And it all ties into this year because this year's the 114th World Series, which is, makes it more interesting to me. But, my uncle was a Cubs fan, and then he dies after the Cubs win for the first time in 108 years. My neighbor, who was also a huge Cubs fan, he died last year, or in 2000, what was it, after the Cubs won in 2017. And the reason that sticks out is because the girl who moved in next door is a girl I graduated with, and her birthday is November 4th, a lot like 114. And with okay, all of that happened with this cat theme, right? My mom's missing cat. The cat, I don't remember when he actually came back. I should have looked that up, but the cat actually came back sometime later. And I don't remember if it was after my uncle died or before or what, but my mom found her cat and he was 6 miles out of town at someone's house. And it was 6 miles down this highway we called the Gold Slipper Highway that was also important in the death of my uncle, right? And maybe I'll find some videos and leave them in the description, but my mom's cat was like 6 miles out of town. Somebody had to have taken it home and then felt guilty about it and brought it back or whatever. But moral of the story, my mom's cat returned. But then when my grandma died, the same day that my grandma died in 2017 as well, who's also my neighbor, which is odd, because this neighbor over here died, and then my grandma lives right across the alley from both of us, and she died. But the day that she died, this girl from 10 miles away on Facebook had wrote a thing about how she found some baby kittens and wanted to know if someone had a nursing cat or whatever. And at the time, my cat just had kittens in 2017 again. So I said, yeah, bring them over. We'll see if she'll take them. And then she wouldn't take them. And then cats died. And they died the same day that my grandma died, right? And I was like, how interesting, this cat theme with my grandma. The same day my grandma dies, I get these cats from some other person because my cat had just had kittens. And then my grandma dies. And then just before my uncle dies, which was my grandma's son as well, my mom's cat went missing. And then his wife even posted on Facebook that she thought she found a cat that looked like him or whatever, right? And my other uncle Clancy, who just recently died, something that stuck out to me, there's not really any cat story that goes along with it, But his daughter, Katie, which even has the cat in it, she's like the crazy cat woman. Like, she loves cats. Like, she has a ton of cats. Absolutely loves cats and kittens. And, every time my cat has kittens, I'm always like, hey, you want some cats, because she loves cats. So I just find that strange, that there's some weird cat theme that goes along with it, seemingly with the deaths in my family or whatever. So as I was writing up this blog post, then I was thinking like how I was thinking about the number 624. It's this big number I've talked about all year with the Indians, but I've also talked about how it's connected to my own life. Talked about how it's connected to the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs and whatnot because Grover Cleveland died on the date of 624, which is the day Freemasonry was founded, and the word Jesuit equals 624. But Grover Cleveland, he died on this day 108 days before the Cubs won the World Series in 2016 for the first time in 108 years. And he died in the year 1908, the last time they had won it, 108 days before. And Cleveland Indian or Cleveland Indians are cursed by the Detroit Tigers, and that's who the Cubs were also cursed in a roundabout way too because they hadn't won. They were cursed by playing Detroit, and they hadn't won since they beat Detroit in 1908. And the Indians traded Rocky Colavito to Detroit, and that's why they were cursed. And Rocky Colavito equals 624, and Detroit Tigers equals 624. And I talked about how Aroldis Chapman was born the same day that the guy who Rocky Colavito was traded for, he was born on that same day that he died or whatever. 2/28 of 1988. Harvey Keene died. Aroldis Chapman was born. Aroldis Chapman equals 624 in Gematria. And he was traded to the Cubs, and it was synced up to the Cubs playing the Indians in 2016. But I also pointed out this year that my grandma died 6 months and 24 days before my Uncle Clancy. And my Uncle Clancy died 6 months and 24 days before my birthday. And I also, the birth of my first biological kid, my son Zamian, he was born 6 months and 24 days after the date of 624. And, what are the odds of that? And he was also born 6 months and 24 days before August 10th, which is Rocky Colavito's birthday. And I also pointed out that my dad was born on 4/11, April 11th, or also 11/4, about like 114. It's the 114th World Series. If you go to November 4th from my dad's birthday, it's also 6 months and 24 days. And I got a weird flat tire, and I was having my dad help me, and I noticed that my dad's license plate on his truck even has the number 624 on it, and his name in Gematria equals 114. Well, anyway, moving on. So, when I was writing up this blog post, I had synchronicity with the TV. I was thinking about this number 624, and I was trying to figure out how it fit into my Uncle Barney because I couldn't remember. I knew there wasn't 624, but he was synced up to it somehow. And Rocky Colavito was born on August 10th, and my Uncle Barney died 8 months and 10 days before my grandma. And anyway, right as I was thinking of this, I heard the TV say 624, and I was like, how? What are the odds, And South Park was on. It was some episode about Jimmy getting boners, and he said, how much do I owe you? And the cab driver said 624. Like, what are the odds? And I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and then the TV says 624. Of all numbers, the TV says that number, that specific number. That's pretty strange, That's what synchronicity is. And I don't even know how South Park got turned on because I didn't turn it on, and Claire said that she didn't turn it on, my daughter, and Jasmine had went to work, so I just assumed Jasmine must have turned it on, but she said she didn't either, so maybe Hulu just, for whatever reason, when it got over with a certain season of Family Guy or whatever was on, must have skipped over to South Park. And Claire shouldn't have been watching it anyway. She's only 8 years old, and it's talking about Jimmy getting boners. That's what I was thinking the whole time. Like, I should probably turn this, but whatever. I don't even think she was like I don't know. I don't think she got it, so no big deal. It's not really that big of a deal to me, but she's gonna learn sometime, but still, like, but anyway, South Park equals 114, and Claire also equals 114. And that's not the first time I've had synchronicity with Claire in South Park, which is really interesting. That her name equals the same, but I talked about how I was watching that movie Spotlight with the 87 priests, right? The 87 priests in Boston molesting kids, and I turned it to South Park, and Claire got mad at me, and I was just joking. She wanted to watch some cartoon, and I just was like, "Well, how about South Park?" And she used to hate it, and I turned it there, and it was the episode called "Red Hot Catholic Love" that was about Catholic priests molesting kids. And in Gematria, it equaled 87, and I'm watching this movie Spotlight about the 87 priests, Catholic priests or whatever. And this was also the 87th episode, Red Hot Catholic Love, 87th episode of South Park. And the word priest equals 87 in Gematria, you know? And the priest who supposedly molested me when I was a kid, his name equals 87. I spell it wrong. Fitzgerald. Or maybe it's just his name. Yeah, his name, Howard Fitzgerald, 87. And I was like, just craziness. So just interesting. It was with Claire again, and Claire equals the same as South Park, and I had the synchronicity of South Park. I also just went on to mention too that I'm wondering if there's something important to September 30th this year, because that's 624 days after my Uncle Barney died. When my mom's cat went missing, and when I really started documenting a lot of this, and that was after the Cubs won. So 624 days after he died will be September 30th. So 3 days. Just the day I'm kind of watching out for to see if anything in particular happens or any synchronicity, something that's special to all of this that's going on. And, you know, hopefully nobody dies, hopefully it's just a pattern I've noticed. And what's really odd is that I notice all this, and just the other day, I had like a hangnail at work. It was on Friday, and I got like this crazy infection in my finger, and within hours, a streak went down my finger and it went all the way down my arm, and I had this like my whole arm was just bright cherry red all the way down to like halfway up my bicep, and I had to go to the hospital for the first time. And I mean, I haven't been to the doctor in 15 years, and I had to go there and get medicine and whatnot. And that was on September 22nd, and the same day, my mom I was early in the morning that I went, and on Saturday morning I went to the ER early in the morning, and then I had to DJ a wedding, and they said if it got worse to come back. Well, it got worse, but I just kept DJing anyway, and then I went to the hospital afterward because I didn't want to ruin someone's wedding, and whatever, I got some more medicine or whatever, and I came back home, but that same night that I get this badass infection in my arm, like seriously still hurts, and whatever else. My mom won $15,000 at the casino, and I'm like, what? I'm like, my arm was like a sacrifice for my mom to win some money or something. And it's interesting because that casino is all about what I was talking about in 2016 with the Indians and the Cubs being in the World Series, because it was connected to the area that I live, and the Omaha Indians are Native American people, and they're the ones who own this casino, Blackbird Bend, right? The Omaha people. And the town I live in was killed the last keeper of the sacred pole of the Omaha Indians, Chief Yellow Smoke. And that's why it was important that Prince died and the Colts owner bought his Yellow Cloud guitar and a whole bunch of other stuff that was synced up to the movie Field of Dreams. But remember, all of this was in 2016, and it was after Colin Kaepernick had knelt during the national anthem that was synced up to Charles Manson and the Helter Skelter theory, and saying that the song Blackbird was telling the black people to rise up, and then the Blackbird, the Atlanta Falcons, went on to make the Super Bowl and lose. And just think about that. The Blackbird, the song Blackbird, tell them to rise up. The Eagles' slogan was even "Rise Up." And if you go back to the death of my Uncle Barney, he gave me this Dan Marino jersey, and in a roundabout way, it was showing me to watch season 10, episode 12 of The Simpsons. And I watched that episode, and in that episode, it aired the same day the Falcons lost in Super Bowl 33. What are the odds of that? The Falcons lost the Super Bowl 33 that same day. And on the show, they won, though, but it was showing me the Falcons. My uncle also got in this weird car wreck. Like, nobody knows why he wrecked. He wrecked, like, miles off the main road, and he was going in the wrong direction, which makes no sense. They said he didn't have a stroke. He got in this wreck, and then he dies at the Jesuit hospital the next day, which is it's the most strangest thing I've ever heard, you know. Why nobody's questioned it that he was off the main highway in the wrong direction. It makes no sense whatsoever, but he died just before getting to the town where the mascot is even the Falcons. Otobo, Iowa. It's the Falcons. Also, Highway 175 and his name equaled 175. And he died 175 days after his birthday or something like that. Can't remember what it was. It was something along the lines of that. His name equals 100. No, I can't remember what it was. We'll type it out really quick. His name equals 166. That's why the gold slipper was important and whatnot. Or I found out the gold slipper, I found out 166 days after his birthday when his birthday was and whatnot, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I know he died 175 days after his birthday, and he died just before getting on Highway 175, and the town where he would have been was where the Falcons play. And then that Dolphins jersey was showing me the Falcons to be in the Super Bowl, and Atlanta Falcons in gematria equal 239. And this was all right when we first had found out about reverse gematria that also equals 239 and 166. And Kaepernick knelt on the 239th day of 2016. And the flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philadelphia. That's why they were in the Super Bowl last year. You know, and Trump called out the NFL on 23/9. And that was really important to Pope Francis's visit to the United States in the 239th year of the United States. And then he left from Philadelphia on the Jesuit anniversary. And later that night, we got the fourth blood moon of the Tetrad. So, you know, there's something really interesting going on with this cat theme. And I also just recently had some other. Recently, I've been talking about Sinbad, or I mean, on my blog at least, I've mentioned Sinbad more than once. And I also mentioned the TV show Home Improvement because of Zachary Ty Bryan that was in this show, or in the movie First Kid with Sinbad. He was the bully, and I've had this like weird urge to watch that movie and also to watch the TV show Home Improvement with Tim Allen. And that's kind of part of the reason I have been making videos too, because I've been doing this for so long, and it's, you know, I document it, but then I don't follow through with some of the things I feel like it's showing me to do. And I just wanted to test it out a bit, you know, and because I felt like it was showing me home improvement just because recently just I've been fighting with my girlfriend a lot, and I've been putting so much time and effort into this and not paying that much attention. And, you know, this is like really, really important to me to show the rest of the world what exists, and, you know, show the rest of the world this. But I thought, maybe it's showing me home improvement because that's, you know, I need I need that, right? So I was like, And I even watched a little bit of Home Improvement, and, you know, honestly, we're not fighting anymore, so I don't know, you know, and I'm not getting the same stuff. So it's just interesting. I just wanted to kind of take a little bit of step back and just kind of see what happens, you know, because these things happen for a reason, and if you pay enough attention, it truly is a sign to, it's showing you, you know, it's giving you a clue of something that you need to do. And, you know, that's why Hermeticism really is important in this world, because if there wasn't anything bad, how could there be anything good? You know, you wouldn't know the difference really. So And before I even knew about any of this, I wrote a song where I even said that. I wrote a song that I said, if we don't have any problem, or, we have all these problems and that's why we all live. If we don't have any problems, then what's the point to live? So just interesting. I just paid attention to it, and, things have gotten better around here. So I don't know. And here I am making videos again, but I don't know. I feel like I needed a break from this, and it improved my home life, if that makes sense. But anyway, Sinbad was a part of all that. And the other day I was looking at the TV, or I was sitting here and I was feeding Zamian, and a commercial came on after Family Guy, and it was a Sinbad commercial. And it was this TV show called Rel, and they said, starring Sinbad as well. And I thought, whoa, Sinbad's in something new. So now I need to watch this TV show. But I never even heard of this guy either, Rel. And he's on Uncle Drew that I've been trying to watch, but I always fall asleep. And he was also on the roast of Bruce Willis, which I talked about was important a while back. So, interesting. I need to check this show out. But the episode of Family Guy that was on was about how Lois does the band Kiss. And for whatever the reason, I remembered that Kiss has this guy named the Cat Man. So I was like, how interesting. So I looked up this guy, and he's from Cleveland, Ohio, which is important to the Indians. And I remembered in the movie Detroit Rock City that they're from Cleveland. I was like, oh, they're going to Detroit, but they're from Cleveland in the very beginning of the movie, because he even says, like, thank you, Cleveland, or whatever, right? So I was like, huh, so this Catman, Detroit Rock City, remember Detroit is the reason that the Indians were cursed, right? And now these guys are going from Cleveland to Detroit in the movie. So just pretty interesting. Maybe there's something to do. The reason that it was so funny too is because the reason I even looked up into Kiss was because I had just read an article before seeing that episode about how Kiss was going on a farewell tour in 2019. So that's why it stuck out to me, because I just read an article about Kiss, and then I had the synchronicity with Sinbad, and the episode just turns out to be about Kiss, and I was like, huh, I just read an article about Kiss. And Kiss, I remember, had the Catman guy. So I was like, huh. So maybe there's something connected. Maybe one of these guys will die. Maybe the original Catman will die. Paul, Chris, who knows? But there's definitely something. Maybe it's just showing me that cat theme so I could see this Detroit and Cleveland theme yet again, and how the cat theme is synced up to it. And think about the Detroit baseball too. It's the Tigers, right? The cat. But, anyway, we'll leave it there. There's so many interrelated things that are going on, and I'll tell you, I have the weirdest synchronicity every day. I, I, I can't even, like, I can't make a video like Zach. I can't just take one topic and make it about that topic, because I can see how so many other things are interrelated, and that's why I can't do it. I'm sorry. I mean, I used to be able to do it, but the more and more I pay attention, I see all of these interrelated things that are going on in the world, and I see how they're all interrelated and all connected, and I see how my own life is synced up to it. So, if you want something simple and something, straight and to the point and easy to understand, then definitely check out some links in the description and go to his, and buy his book even. His book is awesome. It's perfect for all of that, and but I just want to share my experience with this knowledge, because even before knowing gematria, these same type of things were going on, and I was documenting patterns. So just when I learned gematria, it helps you understand more of what the pattern has to offer, You understand why that pattern exists a lot more. So you can see something with a cat theme, and then if you know that the word cat equals 21, and you see something that's related to cats, and you see the number 21, then you know that that number's an important number to check out, kind of like the 624 that I've been following pretty much all summer, since the death of my Uncle Clancy. Now it's synced up to my own life like no other. So, well, whatever. I'll try to leave some links in the description. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Peace.